Marie?
Hi.
Hey, how are you?
Yeah, good. It's funny too, my headphones unplugged. Give me a second.
Yeah, mine too. It's somehow, I don't know why, but the headphones, the connection breaks off every time I'm on live. Hi, Moat. Yeah, so it's so
Can you
awkward.
still hear me okay?
Yeah, it's perfect. Loud and clear. Loud and clear.
Okay,
It's just
awesome.
it's very awkward, but I hope everyone can hear you. So thank you very much, Marie, for joining. It's such a pleasure. We have been planning this for a while, and I'm glad it worked out. I'm still under the weather a little bit, but I'm
Oh,
way too excited to be talking to you and to Pep. So that's amazing.
same. Thank you so much for the invitation. And hi to everyone. I hope you're having a nice Sunday.
Yes, absolutely. And I have to give a huge shout out to Petra who just joined, who actually introduced me to MISKEO, and and I'm just really glad that that happened. Let me get Pep on. I will, Pep, if you're listening, can you maybe I can even add him. Let me see. Underscore. All right. So I've invited Pep. I hope it would work. A lot of familiar faces. That's amazing.
Oh, I've got
All
my
right, Pep.
camera
You
on.
see your leather seat? There you go. There's a beautiful face. Good morning. Good morning. It's 4 o'clock,
Good morning.
4:30 in the morning, and
Good
I had concerns.
morning.
I had concerns if you won't sleep or would you wake up early. That's what I asked Marie.
It's a combination of both.
It's a combination of both, but lovely, lovely, lovely to see you, Pep. We've been talking for a long time, and I'm glad that we have this opportunity now with Miss Kia to finally speak with each other. That's amazing.
I hope everyone can hear me. Hello, everyone.
We can
All
hear
right.
you fine.
Perfect, Map. All right. So, I mean, I know the brand. I had the pleasure to speak with you, Marie. We had like what, an hour conversation about this, but I would love for you to talk about your background. We will go a little bit ping pong. I would, of course, bring in and ask Pep certain things, but I would first like to start with your background because it's something that's very fascinating to me as well. So please go ahead and talk about where you come from and yeah, how did you happen to start with this?
Yes, I'm going to try to not make it too long. I'm originally from a small town in Quebec, in Canada, on the French-speaking side, so hence my French name, but I'm not French, I'm French-Canadian. Um, Studied anthropology and design, which don't seem so related, but actually storytelling is what kind of bring them together. Same for art direction that I also did later on. Yeah, so this is where I'm from. I currently live in Berlin. Reason why I'm here is I have a best friend that lives here, and I wanted to live in Europe, and also was trying to find a place where I could work in English because I was still back then a designer and product designer. And Berlin seemed to be a good place to work in tech and in English, but be in Europe, which I really wanted to do. So I moved here and yeah, started working here in design. And so that's for my background. Just, do you want to know also about how I started perfume, or do you want to talk about
Sure.
this later?
No, I mean, I know that I read that you did a lot of bespoke. Maybe that's maybe you can talk a little bit about bespoke. Then we'll go to Pep.
Yeah, I mean, super quickly, I always wanted to create perfume and be a perfumer my entire life, but being from a suburb in Canada was not the most accessible way to become a perfumer. And then when I moved here, I started to get into it a little bit more, going on other forums and read everything and I could read, and started practicing by doing bespoke perfume, which I still do and I absolutely adore. So this is how I got into it, actually.
That's amazing, Pep. So coming to you, I think a lot of people who are listening, they probably already know you because you are a part of I don't know if you want to call it community or this fragrance world, so to say. So maybe people who don't know about you, maybe you can say a little bit about yourself, what you do, and you've been doing it for 6, 7 years now, YouTube. So just go ahead and tell a little bit about yourself.
Yeah, so I obviously live in a different time zone to you guys. So I'm in Melbourne, Australia. I have been doing the YouTube for nearly 6 years now. So that's how it all started for me. You know, like I always had an interest in perfume, but I never really got really into it and started to buy lots of perfumes and smell lots of perfumes until up until that point, and started the YouTube, got onto Instagram as a natural extension, and that's how Marie and I met a couple of years ago now. Yeah. So and that was, you know, once Marie announced or, you know, made it clear that she was going to make her own perfumes, we kind of chatted about it a little bit, and sort of one thing led to another, as they say in the classics, and this is how we came to work together.
The rest is history.
The rest is history. Yeah.
That's really amazing. By the way, congratulations on your 500 video. That's huge. I mean, that's commitment. That's hard work, and you know, it's consistency. It's amazing. Congratulations.
Thanks, Rahul. Some people could say I just have too much time on my hands, but thank you.
No, but
I think you need some more work if you want.
That's great. I mean, Marie, my question to you is, like, Pep already said that how you met, but I personally, I didn't know the role of evaluator, or rather more in the technical sense. When I don't know if they are called evaluator, but they are experts, so to say, in these big companies who would smell it. And so I don't know, first of all, what does an evaluator do? Maybe both of you can talk about this. And to what extent does it go? Is it more like a personal preference? Or, you know what, I think the market is going mimosa or oud, or I don't know. So what is it? Is it technical? Is it more personal? What does an evaluator do?
I mean, I can give a brief introduction. After that, I would love to let Pep talk about his role. Of course, it's just me and Pep, so we're both self-taught and not from the industry, so probably our definition of evaluator is not like what you would find in very large cosmetic companies. Essentially, I see Pep's role as an evaluator a little bit like a producer. So it's a person external to the person that creates, that has a really deep understanding of the creative vision and kind of what would be kind of the outcome. And it's kind of like the guardian of the vision, whilst the artist, me, gets lost in a lot of details and produce a lot of crap. But that person is there to kind of steer back in the right direction. So this comes with, you know, feedback on the different versions. So evaluation, understanding a little bit how they work, giving feedback on like the technical aspect, but also the creative aspect. And since we were making a collection, so also kind of steering towards the vision and the identity of the collection. And also, of course, talking about a bit the market, the trends, referencing to genres and styles and stuff like this. So this is what Pep's role has been. I don't know if he would entirely agree with what I just said.
Go ahead, Pep. What did you miss?
Yeah, I do agree. I do agree. First of all, I would say for me, it's definitely not a technical role, because as interesting as it has been, and Marie's been willing to share things like ingredients and formulas of the perfumes with me, I just took the approach of smelling each version I got sent as me doing a review of them, and essentially, if there was stuff I liked about it, I would let her know. If there was stuff I didn't like about them, I would let her know, and also with the context of I guess the only things I had to take into consideration were if I was smelling something that I really liked, I also had to consider whether I felt it was original enough or it would work within the line that we were going to launch. So that's all stuff that, even though I have no formal training or anything like that, that was all stuff that I felt like I could at least use my self-taught knowledge and mental database to at least give feedback on. And like Marie says, I can imagine that it's very easy to get lost in your creations, and I like the fact that I didn't really have any part in the creations, and so I got to smell her first versions of everything, and then basically tell her what I think, and also the technique. I mean, even the only technical things that I would look at were how it worked on my skin, how long it lasted, that kind of thing as well, and testing different variations of concentrations and that kind of thing, to come up with the final what we were both happy with to release.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Marie, sorry. Did you want to say something, Marie?
No, go ahead. I was just approving.
That's amazing. No, because I was really curious about this, right? So knowing both of you, or at least after talking to you, Marie, because PEP is open book on YouTube. So I knew what shaped his taste or what shapes his taste. I was expecting quite a lot of heady things, vintage style, but I was quite surprised how modern, yet, except Broom and Diam, it was quite contemporary and modern, still having roots in this resinous, woody, animalic, chypre kind of vibe. So was that the base? I know you guys love Serge Lutens, MS, and all those older, rich legacy kind of fragrances. So is that what shaped your taste and also the fragrances?
I'm old, so I have the perfumes that shaped my taste were the big shoulder pads of the 80s, which my mom kept, bringing back home. So, and also I discovered a lot more after this. I'm not like a vintage collector by all means. I think I have a few, but not that so many. But of course it inspires me. It shaped my own taste. Actually, everything does, from the art, the landscape, the foods, everything does. But I think perfume-wise, surely, my structural form sits maybe more in the classics, or a little bit what we would consider vintage, but I'm also the product of, now. So I guess this is how kind of the classic / modern come together.
Pep, what do you think?
I think Marie and I have talked briefly over the time about this. I don't think I really like the fact that she doesn't seem to be too influenced by any particular perfumer or perfumeurs, and having gotten to know her, especially when I visited Berlin a few months ago and got to meet Marie in person, I realized how much she is influenced by her environment more than like specific perfumes or particular perfumers. You know, I'm sure that the one thing I like is that she really gets into particular materials, and even you know, even the plants that those materials come from. We were obsessed with linden blossom while we were in Berlin as well. But you see with the perfumes, and I was privileged enough to smell other things that, you know, she was working on. It's almost an advantage that she's self-taught in a way, because I think what both of us were doing were not following any particular rules apart from technical ones that, you know, authorities impose, so you could actually get these on store shelves. But creatively, there was nothing that we were trying to follow or anything like that, other than the very, I guess, the very sort of minimal brief for each perfume. And that was, you know, essentially based on the style, and it's all in the names of the perfumes as well. So like one of the things I would sort of be aware of, if I felt like something smelled similar to things that were on the market, and Marie may not even have known that they existed, that's one thing I would mention as well. So it would try and keep it at least a little bit unique. Yeah, but that, I don't really have anything else to add to that.
No, that definitely makes sense. You know, it was quite refreshing. I try a lot of fragrances on weekly basis, and when I smelled it, it was really like a fresh of, you know, a breath of fresh air. Because, you know, when I spoke to her, so I was already contemplating in my head. We spoke about Miguel Matos, we spoke about Francesca Bianchi, and I was quite, you know, because I'm eating their creations. Yeah. And then I was completely surprised. Let's take a question. This really beautiful question from Anna. Marie, with all the variety and diversity on the market, how does a perfumer manage to find their own identity? That's a really good
well, hi, Anna, first. I think I don't want to divert the question too much, but I think a lot of this has to do with what is actually a perfumer. So perfumers are artists, I want to say, not to quote Christophe Laudamiel, but I really think that perfumers are artists, but also with like a really strong scientific, technical kind of background. So I think your identity as a perfumer has a lot to do with how you let everything that's around you inspire you to create. For me, I think physical places do that a lot. And I think, as Pep already said, like materials also, because I also feel that materials are very linked to where they are from. Maybe it's from my background in anthropology as well. Like I guess humans forge really deep connections to the landscape and the nature that's around them, and the scent and everything they meet with their senses. And I think there's like, perfume is about telling stories. Of course, you can tell stories that are very literal. So you can tell the story about a country or a landscape, but you can also tell fictional stories or stories about people. Or yes, I guess my identity is not separate as a perfumer, is not separate from my identity as a person. I love storytelling, so I love telling stories. So my perfumes are very layered in a way. They're not linear. They have multiple things to say over time. They have a little bit of, not humor, but there's always a little bit of a twist. similar to who I am as well. And they really feature, as best as I can do technically, the beautiful materials I'm using, because I really deeply love nature and the materials I'm using. And of course, synthetics as well. So I don't want to get into that discussion, but yeah. So I guess the identity of the perfumes as me as a perfumer is actually me. You know, there's not a lot of other layers to that.
Yeah, beautifully answered, Marie. So, I mean, I'm pretty sure Pep knows, I know as well, when you are on social media for so long, or as long as we are, you get this question a lot. Hey, now you have been reviewing fragrances for 3 years, 6 years, 10 years. When will you come up with your own brand, right? So you have been doing bespoke for so long. At what point did you say, you know what, I think I am not qualified enough, but I'm ready I have something that I want to share with the world, so to say. So, or is it like is it like a light bulb on the head that, hey, now I have ideas of 4? I mean, your background in art is already being shown on the design, on the website, on how beautifully. I haven't had the bottle yet, but you can see that there has been a lot of thought put through. So at what point did you realize that, okay, now I have to do something on my own?
I mean, from the start, I think it was, as you said, it was more a question of confidence. I think, you know, at the beginning of my journey, I used actually my bespoke clients, very brave souls, I have to say, because the beginning was not always so great. I used my bespoke clients to have briefs, so before I started getting an idea of what I wanted to create, I always knew I wanted to create something for myself, but I didn't know what. So in the meantime, whilst I was figuring this out, I was using my bespoke clients to create outside of my comfort zone and have briefs. So, you know, different tastes in mind, with different perspective, different loves, different memories. But yeah, I think I always knew this is where I wanted to go.
Yeah, but could you share, like, what could a bespoke brief look like or sound like? Is it like, I'm getting married, can you create a fragrance for the wedding day? Or that's
No,
how I know bespoke.
I never got these ones actually, and I think I would love to do it. I think that would be a really good challenge. No, they all come to me as like, a few of them are like massive perfume lovers and collectors, but a lot of them are just in for the experience. And usually the brief comes as we do our first, like, there's one questionnaire where they tell me about who they are and what scent they like and memories and stuff like this. And then we meet in person and we smell actually 32 materials together, which is insane. So already bravo to all of them to go through that every time. And I kind of, you know, it's like design process. They first give me like the quantitative data, and then I kind of match this with the qualitative data that they're giving me when they're telling me a story. And from this, I start seeing patterns, and I kind of hook on the little stories and the nuggets that they're giving me, and this is how I develop 3 perfumes for them. Yeah, so this is how it works.
Great. That sounds really great. Let's talk about, maybe let's take some questions before, because then it all piles up. Christian has a very good one. I'm curious about the reason you didn't publish the note list on there is somehow, I mean, it's not really a note list, but there is definitely a list, right? What do you call them? Mood boards?
Material highlights.
Right, exactly. Material highlights. I mean, it's more like a highlight. I mean, I like that fact because, you know, then it influences you too much when there are exactly written, there is, instead of spice, there is cardamom, cinnamon, cumin, and then I don't like cumin. I'm not going to try it because I hate cumin. So I don't know if that was the reason, or maybe there is a more profound reason. I don't know.
I mean, I can say a little bit about this, but Pep and I actually discussed this a few times. There's multiple reasons, I guess, but I think the easiest one is what you just said. Plus, I'm going to detail that. So I think everyone's perception of scent is so personal and so unique. And also there's a lot of like preconception or misconception of notes, and notes are not materials, by the way. Like, it has nothing to do with what actually is in the bottle. And I'm not sure it helps so much knowing what it is gonna smell like, because my interpretation or PEP's interpretation of certain note might not be actually what you think it is. And I'm not sure it helps with education and transparency. Like, I think I would rather give materials that's in there. And also we did for the second anniversary, the people that bought on that day, like, I sent the actual raw materials, which I think is way more helpful. And I know not everyone can do that. And I know notes are helpful in some ways. But there's also so much crap, I'm sorry, but it's not because you put notes out there that it's actually relevant or helpful. Like, I see sometimes on Fragrantica especially, like a list of like 20, 25 notes. Like, does that really help you if you put everything in there? Like, I don't know. Just personally, I never find them really helpful. I would rather know what kind of genres or family they're in, and do my own kind of research and then try it. Like, trying it's never gonna replace anyways anything, you know. So I don't know, Pep, you want to add something to this?
I would love to know Pep's opinion on that.
Oh yeah, well, I mean, we both agreed with everything Marie just said. What I'll add is that what was interesting was when we were trying to get the perfumes onto the different databases, i.e. Perfumer, Base Notes, and Fragrantica. Fragrantica and Base Notes, we did come up with a list of notes of a rough pyramid, and it was purely based. It was purely based on the obvious things that we could smell in it. So I actually, sort of started off a list for each perfume without looking at the actual formula itself, and trying to pick notes that I could smell in it, even if they, in some cases, actually weren't in the perfume. And that's how it came up. If you look on Fragrantica or Base Notes, you'll see that there is a note pyramid that we provided based on what we could both smell in the perfume. Perfumer is different because they will only accept, even though I told them that I was working with the brand, they will only accept what's on the website. So all we listed on our website were the 3 material highlights. But if anyone went on the website and had a look at each perfume, we also list how many actual ingredients went into each perfume, both natural and synthetic. But yeah, basically, I agree with Marie. They're helpful as a rough guide, but once they get into the area of influencing too much what something will smell like in your brain before you actually smell it, that's when I try and ignore no pyramids.
And maybe just one little thing I want to add to this is that this is why you reviewers are having such a good spot in the community, because there's nothing that compares with how people actually experience it. And I would much rather Google search a perfume and find all the reviews people have created and find and like watch someone actually smelling it and try to talk about their experience and read a note pyramid, like personally. So I think, you know, it's much more evocative and personal and interesting than reading a very generic list of jasmine, rose, woody notes, you know, like that's not helpful.
And I like to think if anyone was interested in the perfumes and went onto the website, so there's also a description from both of us about how we perceive the scent. I know some people don't like abstract kind of descriptions, and it still doesn't help them understand how it smells. But I think, I think that's what samples are for as well. So like I would encourage anyone who can at the moment to try and sample them and make up your own mind. Like, and if you get the discovery set, even smell them blind and see if you can guess which one it is that you're smelling.
Absolutely. No, for me, lately realized images really helped. Even though you talked about abstract, sometimes it really helps to look at an image that was given as a brief or used as a brief. Like that sometimes makes you feel much more comfortable than reading a note breakdown. For me, sometimes it's even better when I don't know who the perfumer is, because that's also influences the opinion. And this is why I love blind smelling, because you don't have any associations of the brand, and you have no associations on who the perfumer is. But that really, people say it doesn't influence. It does. It definitely influences it. You have your favorites. You have your favorite notes. And I find that very refreshing what you guys did.
I absolutely agree with you. Like the blind smelling is like chef's kiss. Love it.
Well, I forgot to mention earlier, that's essentially how we did a lot of the early evaluation with our stuff. So Marie would send me like dozens of little samples, but they were only numbered. So my first impressions of those were based really on nothing.
Yes.
That's lovely. But one more question that comes in my mind. Pep, did you get, let's say, the final fragrances, or did you also get the ingredients eventually of individual ingredients?
Oh, well, so so with each evaluation, so we did this a few times. Say, for instance, Épices, we went through different versions of it based on feedback I gave, and then by the end I knew I was smelling a version of Épices. It was just a matter of choosing which one. So we tried different concentrations towards the end and that kind of thing, and then we finally settled on one. The one I would say we didn't have to try too many versions of was Pistil, which kind of the first version I smelled of that was basically, I don't know how many tweaks you made to it after that, Marie, but like it was pretty much right from the beginning. So it just depends on the perfume.
Right, that's amazing. You named both of my favorite fragrances now, Marie. So that's great. Thank you for spoiling it for everyone. Nevertheless, that's amazing. No, I mean, I spoiled it now. All right, let me take another question. Lydia asked, is there a raw material you could name as a brand DNA? I guess that's what she means.
So meaning that it's a raw material that would be I mean, there are certain materials that are coming back, I guess, because of my natural affinity. I gravitate a lot towards green notes. You can find different shades of them, I think, in all of the perfumes we have. I probably sneak in the much spices in everything. And I think it's just because I love eating so much and I love spices so much that for me, it's just like the thing that you want to put on everything. Not always the same ones, but I certainly put spices in everything that I do because I think they're like, same as in food, it just brings out the little thing that you know, that unique little spark that you want, you know.
And cooking is another thing that you guys have in common, right?
Yes.
I get to learn a lot of how to cook things from Pep as well. So that's really amazing.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm better at eating it though.
That's the part you don't show, but yeah, I can imagine. So one another thing we talked about regional and audiences. So that's another thing that I always ask a creator. In this case, also Pep, you when you create a fragrance, from where your kind of taste comes from, is it? So, I mean, these are not overly crazy fragrances, but also not very simplistic. So, do you have like a level where you say we won't go above that in terms of how niche or how difficult is it? And is it like you think, okay, we'll make something for everyone, or you pick a part of yeah, of interest, so to say, that okay, we want to tackle people who like, you know, this resinous green. It always made me wonder because I mean, Broom is completely different to Pistil, for example. It has day and night. You know, it could tackle completely different audiences altogether.
This is such a good question. I'm going to try to keep it brief because I would love to hear Pep about this as well. I think one of the things that I want to do the most is actually I want people to wear my perfumes. So if I make them too difficult to understand or to wear or to want to have around, I think I don't know if it serves really my mission as a person, which is I want to tell stories and I want a lot of people to hear those stories. And maybe this is coming from my design background as well. Like I try to make this as accessible to people while still being interesting, right? So there's kind of like a balance in what I do, and in the end, like I never meant to make Pistil Brume so different. I think I just had two different stories in mind, and I just wanted to tell it to the best that I could, technically and creatively. But still, by and I don't gravitate towards things that are so intense that you're like, I appreciate you, but never want you near me. I think I love when other people do that. This is why we discuss like Miguel Matos, for example, which I absolutely adore his creative storytelling, but it's just not me, right? It's not who I am as a creator, I would say. What about you, Pep?
I think it was always at the front of my mind, evaluating these. Given that they were going to be your first publicly available perfumes as opposed to your bespoke ones, that I had in mind that they all had to be wearable for anyone, and at the same time understanding that someone could love Diam, for instance, but really not like Broom. Like I don't think we were creating 4 perfumes that everyone would love, but what our hope was that someone would love at least one of them. And also what we realized as we were evaluating the perfumes was that we could, and this applies to like nearly all perfumes, but we could easily be wearing the same perfume, but it would have totally different associations to each of us. I mean, like Marie's posted about her very clear inspiration for them being her grandparents and so on. But for me, wearing that perfume is a totally different experience as well.
Please don't think of my grandma while you wear that. Please don't.
And it was interesting because I just this is not really related to the question that you asked, but you know, something like Broom, which has become like one of my favorites from the fall. Like I lean towards that one a lot. Is that I think I remember the very first version I smelled of it, I actually didn't like. And I'm not and I like not knowing what Marie did to it to make me like it. But I think the second or third version that I smelled of it, I suddenly thought, wow, like I'm not supposed to like this style of perfume, but I really love it. So evaluating's been good for me because it's allowed me to sort of it's made me open my mind a little bit to different perfumes.
Yeah, the Broom is special. You know, I'm getting first time I sprayed it on, and I got cucumber from it. Does anyone? Am I the only one? Gets a juicy cucumber with you know, like the juice when you put it on. If you have Broom, literally it was green, but it had this cucumber vibe.
Not wrong is what I want to say. You're not wrong.
But it's really special. I mean, I don't do well with green fragrances, and that's the one I struggled the most with, so to say.
Yeah, but you told me this in advance, so I won't take it against you. It's okay.
It's very interesting. I wonder, like, let's talk about the fragrances. Let's talk about Broom. What was it, Marie, that you were thinking while creating Broom?
I've said that many times, and it never gets old. It is actually a real beach in Portugal that I was on that was so foggy, like thick fog that you could not see like more than 1 meter or 2 meters in front of you. And first, I absolutely adore Portugal. This is my home away from home. But there's these beaches in Portugal that are on the Atlantic coast that are almost like wild and not a lot of people, or sometimes no one is there. So you get, when you couple this with the fog and it gets really eerie, you feel like in Castaway, like you're at the end of the world, literally. And it's just that memory, is that you know, when, I don't know if you've ever been in such a deep fog that you almost feel blind and everything, like all your other senses become increased. So your sense of hearing, like the humidity on your skin, but also I could still feel like the sun that was above the fog. But the smell was so intense. Maybe because water is also a solvent, so it just made everything so present. And also like that kind of feeling of like, you don't know, are you gonna step further and you're gonna be in another, you know, parallel dimension? Like it's very disorienting. So it's kind of that memory of that place, of that moment. Very fresh. Of course, there's kind of like the sea in the background, but it's not just about the sea, it's about all the plants that are around, kind of a little bit salty, mineral, wet, very green, all the shades of green that you can imagine.
For me, it's like walk in a forest in the morning when it's cold and there is dew. This is exactly how it is. For me, it's this morning dew on the green leaves, and it takes you there. It definitely, then there's this mineral aquatic vibe that I would smell. You know, it would be that smell that goes in my nose with that fog. That's how I see it. Pep, what do you think?
Well, all that imagery, you know, definitely I relate to as well. To me, it's not. Broom is not so much of a real place because I can't literally say I've been to a place like this. It's a very imagined scentscape or landscape in my mind as well. There's a little bit of like a fantasy about this like I imagine some kind of weird David Lynch film environment. You know, the fogginess of Twin Peaks.
Oh, that's why I like you. You get my references.
References done right. That's amazing. Broom, really interesting. Not my favorite, but I can imagine people who love this green vibe. I would like it, but there are two that I really love. We will talk about them. Let's take another.
I cannot wear Broom either. I love smelling it on other people, but on me, it doesn't work. So I get you. I understand.
I mean, there's some fragrances. There are some fragrances I'm wearing, and it's some fragrances my wife wear. When in the air, I'm like, which fragrance is it? As if like it's a new fragrance. And she tells me, I said, but this doesn't smell like that in the air when I wear it. And that's the most fascinating part, actually, for me. All right. Oh, that's a good question from John. Was there any point that you thought it was all crazy pep? Or did you always stay very confident, though? True.
Once I smelled the very first versions that Marie sent to me, like I guess we kind of have the type of relationship where you know, this could have stopped at any point, I guess, my involvement in it, and I still wouldn't have gone on to do any more of it if I didn't believe in the perfumes. There's kind of no point. Like if I'd smelled everything the first go and thought, I don't like any of these, or at least told Marie that she needs to work on all of them, but I could at least smell stuff and know that I really like the direction that this was going in. So no, I didn't think it was crazy at all, because it was actually great fun, and it's been such an eye-opening education for me, because a lot of us being reviewers, Instagram influencers, we get to do the pretty side of, you know, independent perfume and show the bottles and describe what we're smelling, but I cannot believe all the hoops that Marie had to jump through to actually get these things, you know, available to be sold. And at the moment, you know, unfortunately, we're still only within the EU because of shipping hoops that we still have to jump through. But if anyone's crazy, it's Marie. It's not me.
That's true. That's it. I'm curious if you had like an argument or a disagreement on something where you said, you know what, I completely see this and in another way. Could be a fragrance or could be a version of a fragrance where you said the fifth one was better and she said sixth one. Or
we definitely, well, first of all, we've never had an argument, but we have disagreed on, you know, like on preferences. Like she liked one more than I did, but I think where we came to an agreement was, you know, like for the four that we were going to launch, we both had to had to agree on that version. So, I mean, obviously, in this scenario, I think Marie, and it would be fair to say that Marie would have the final say on anything. But I think with the four that we chose, we both agreed that they were the ones. Yeah.
I just want to add something to this. I think the reason why I absolutely love working with you, Pep, and I think why we never had an argument is that I really trust your sense of integrity. you know, and I think that was the most important to me, is that we could actually discuss when we had different opinions, and that whatever thoughts or feedback you had was really coming from the best of place. So I guess this is why we never had an argument, even though we sometimes disagree, but it was very clear from the beginning, if we were to do this, that we needed to be as honest and as like we keep the same direction together, and it's not about ego in the end. This is just creating something that we're really happy about, the both of us.
That's amazing. Lovely. There are really crazy questions that would take ages to answer. Oh man, it's difficult to choose. I don't know. I hate to be in this spot where I have to choose between two. Okay, there you go. That's what I wanted to ask. Anyways, how do you pronounce it? Diam? Diam?
Dam.
Dam?
Dam.
Dam. Okay. So I wish to know more about Dam. So that's what I wanted to go to actually, and about the process from the start. All right, let's do that. Thank you, Lydia, for the question.
I'm gonna try to not take too much time, but essentially, I wanted to create a leather type of perfume because I really like them and I like smelling it on other people. So that was one of the reasons why I wanted to go for this. And I was trying to find my own relationship and my own angle to this. And for me, leather is kind of synonymous with quality in some way, with like that beautiful material that ages well, that just acquires that beautiful patina over time. So there was something in there that was, for me, kind of conceptually very kind of a little bit vintage in a way. And at the same time, like I was going through some old photos on my laptop, and I was looking at my grandparents' photos from like the late 1940s, beginning of 1950s. And it kind of just made sense to me that, you know, like my version of leather was not the kinky Berkheim, you know, sort, but was more related to that kind of craft and quality and a bit of the vintage vibes. And yeah, I wanted to make something that was as unpretentious as my grandparents that were farmers and had no money whatsoever, but still made that effort every time they were taking a photos. Like they're so well dressed, like tailored suits and hats and the like, you know, pocket square and the pearls and the nice gloves, and all the people from that generations were kind of that, and kind of projecting a little bit their lives that they were having in these beautiful old cars and, you know, these kind of nice bars with like the big wooden mahogany countertops. So this is kind of like where the materials came in, which is kind of part of it is a bit more of a very tender suede leather type of thing. There's quite a bit of more of that herbal hay aromatics, and I kind of tied it all with something very soft and sweet like jasmine and frangipani, which is very pretty but also has that little bit sexiness to it. So yeah.
I had hours of discussion with myself if I like Pistil more or Dam, because to me this is like a library, old library, and you have leather chairs there, right? Yeah. That's exactly that vibe, this dusty, soft suede leather, woody kind of vibe. I really had a lot of discussion, or just thinking, hey, you know, we're trying it, and it is beautiful, really beautiful. Pat, what do you think?
I think when Marie talks about the type of leather fragrance it's definitely more like if I was to line up these perfumes and ask someone to pick which one was made the earliest, i.e. what, you know, what year it came out. I would expect people to pick Diam as the oldest of the perfumes. And that's what I think about when I think of like has that vintage vibe, and that this could have been made sometime in the 60s by Hermes or something like that. I really love the floral aspect of this leather, the fact that it is smooth, it's not uber masculine the way a lot of modern leathers are, and definitely there's no harshness about this leather at all. But
yeah, that's exactly what
I mean, out of the four of them, this is the one that has the least clear imagery for me. This is a real vibe perfume for me. So it's more of a mood rather than taking me to a place and time.
I mean, we mentioned vintage quite a lot, but I find it's quite modern leather. Like from the leathers that I've smelled recently, because it's so soft and without any edges, I find it, like you mentioned, something like Hermes would make. If you go that direction, Aga Eben is the name of the fragrance from Hermes. Or even bow makers. I don't know if you guys know bow makers from the Silva. That's this kind of dusty woody leather vibe with the floor. Beautiful.
I mean, maybe one thing I can say, just a little trade secret. Pep and I both hate isobutyl quinoline, which you find in a lot of very masculine leather perfume, and there's none in it. So you can imagine it's a very soft leather.
That's amazing. All right. Let's talk about Pistil. I mean, we already in an hour, crossing an hour soon. I hope I could still keep you 10 minutes more.
Yeah, of course.
I would not like to let you go without speaking about Pistil and Épices. Let's talk about Pistil. It's the one really, probably the most transformative of the four, at least on my skin. It really was. It took me on a journey, definitely. And I later learned, good thing, it has lavender. I wouldn't have tried that fragrance because I'm like, lavender, no, it's not for me. And this is right now my favorite. It's unbelievable. Sometimes it's better not to know it. Really, really beautiful. Yeah, you're right. We are sentient. It's beautiful. There's a lot of people who love Pistil. So go ahead. What was the idea here, Marie?
I mean, Pep can tell his side of the story, but I really struggled to come up with a floral that I would want to wear. I was so annoyed. And I don't know, like one afternoon, I just decided to like everything, and I'm just gonna make something with everything that I loved in it, pretty much. It's like very transparently, very inspired in some ways, not as a copy, but as the idea and where it comes from, and that kind of same want to do something as all the beautiful green fragrances from Germaine Cellier. It is not Fracas or Vent Vert or Bandit, but it's kind of in that same idea of a femininity that's not so cute and soft, but has a bit of edge, a lot of contradiction. It's a bit of a feminist perfume in some ways. It's not meant to be so perfect and pretty. There's some raunchiness in it, even though it's kind of distant and cold at the beginning, but it ends up like warming up and kind of enveloping you. It's very creamy as well. Yeah, it has a lot of different facets and it changes a lot. It does have a lot of lavender absolute as well, which I think makes it less of that pretty feminine. Because there's a Narcissus Accord, there's Rose Absolute, there's Jasmine, there's a Tuberose Accord, like all the flowers you can imagine are in there. But yeah, the Lavender Absolute kind of ties it together as a little bit less pretty. And also like that beautiful little violet at the beginning. So kind of innocent, but not at all when you go on that journey.
Pep?
I think of the 4 perfumes in the line, this one is the one I'm most proud of Marie producing, because I know that I don't mind saying that she didn't feel confident trying to make a floral perfume. So I'll take credit for encouraging her to do it, because I love this from the first time I smelled it. And it's interesting, Raoul, that you say that you don't normally like lavender. So I'm assuming that is it mainly fougere aromatic type perfumes where you don't like it that much?
I love fougere, but when lavender is too much or too prominent, that puts me off somehow. So I love fougere, or I warmed up to fougere quite late in my fragrance journey because I couldn't take that lavender.
Because I think this is the first kind of perfume where I've smelled lavender in this context as well. It's like the lavender is in the middle of this floral bouquet. Like there is everything, like Marie said, there's almost every type of floral you can think of, and I get a very I know Marie described it as creamy, but for me this is like a very velvety texture, like almost running your fingers through a velvet fabric almost, and it just smells divine to me. And I think that I think you nailed it, Marie. I don't know if we're all still on, but I think you nailed it in that you managed to make this floral right down the line unisex. Like on my skin, I don't feel, as a man, I don't feel self-conscious wearing so much floral perfume. It's just beautifully balanced. I am gonna say one thing, because I've noticed this while we've been on here, is that it's amazing how different how much it changes smelling off a strip to my skin. And I wanted to say as well, part of the evaluation as well, Raoul, was I tested, like, my final notes were off my skin and also off blotters. So anytime something was very different on both, I would try and make a note of it.
Oh, thank you, the Perfume Temple. It's so sweet.
Yeah, Pistil really blew my mind. I mean, on the skin, it's really was magical. I could not believe, I could not pinpoint on any note. I could just, it just took me in. It just took me in by surprise. So it's really, really beautiful. I can only recommend trying it. All right, let's talk about Épices. Épices. Sorry, my friend. Épices. Épices. And that's my, well, I'm having issues choosing my favorite, but Pistil and Épices are really, for me, it's beautiful gourmand cardamom. This is what it is to me. If I have to simplify it, Marie, go ahead. What was the idea? Food?
I mean, I exactly. And I know that we had that chat, you and I, like you told me a little bit about your kind of spice memories, you know. I mean, you're originally from India. This is like heaven for me and all the spices and spice heads. I'm going to call myself that now, spice heads. Yeah, and it's really that. I wish it was more poetic or romantic than it is, but it's just my absolute love of making food for people, finding food, buying food, trying food. Probably I should have been a chef, probably not, also because I know the life of a chef is hell. But, you know, I think it's just that representation of just the joy you have of eating beautiful food, especially when it's made with love. Even if it's very simple, it doesn't matter. It's just that kind of love that you have. And yeah, it's of course, it's all about the spices, but I wanted to not make it the obvious, and like just like clove and cinnamon and stuff like this. So I went more of that kind of fun contrast or duality of warm and cold, warm and cooling textures rather than exactly one thing. So yeah, that's Épices. And you can see I love food because I started gesticulating a lot, and I'm also hungry.
Absolutely. Go ahead, Pep.
I was just gonna say it's really interesting to me that that food is the main, I guess, source of inspiration behind this for Marie, and I understand it because I know how much she loves food, and it's very obviously a spice perfume to me. But again, the way I interpret it is totally not in a food related or flavor related way. Like when I just sprayed that on, then all I got, because it's still dark and a little bit, it's raining outside, but this is liquid sunshine when I'm wearing it on my skin. It's warm. It's warm. I can smell the cardamom as well very clearly, and I associate cardamom with a sort of cool, kind of creamier spice, but there is something else. There's obviously lots of other things in here, but to me, it's just dappled sunlight on your skin, and it's always been like that for me. I can't help but feel happy when I smell it. It makes me smile when I smell it. This is, I would say, it's probably the most accessible perfume to a bigger audience from the four, but there's a reason for that, because I can't see any. This is the one where I can't see anyone not liking the perfume. You know,
easy recommendation. Definitely an easy recommendation.
Yeah.
And yes, Sandro, you're right, Alessandro. It is a lot about patchouli as well. Not everyone picks it up, but yes, there's quite a bit in there. You're muted, Raoul.
I, on the other hand side, have a really perfect picture of what it smells like. I don't know if you've been to India. There is a delicacy where it's a rice pudding. It's with milk, it's with rice, and you put a lot of cardamom in it.
Yes,
so
yes,
for me, exactly this rice pudding from my mom, and she used to put a lot of cardamom in it. And that exactly, it's and I haven't had it for like 12 years now. So that takes me back.
But you see what I mean? Like, it doesn't matter if it smells like this or not, but it does to you what I meant it for it to do, which is you suddenly have like a big hug from your mom. You know what I mean? Like this is what I love about it.
And Saint-Genie is correct. It's called kheer. So it's kheer, and it's a staple. We eat it all the time, and it's really, really beautiful.
Oh,
so
I want to try now.
I'm so hungry now.
All right. So there is another one. Will we be getting Eau de Pep anytime soon? Not really. Not commercial at all. That was more.
I mean, I don't want to say too much about this, and Pep, go for it if you want to say. But you know, I think I do have a couple of other ones that I want to do in the next year or two. But it doesn't mean that everything's going to be back to back like this. But we started discussing some of Pep's ideas as well, and yeah, so it might be Pep's Eau de Pep very soon.
I'll just answer Jay's question by saying I haven't actually really given it any thought, to be honest, and I'm going to be a big tease here and say that I'm very super excited about the next thing that comes out from MISKEO.
Yeah,
and that's all I'm contracted to say.
Can you see? I mean, Marie already shared. What was it? Mimosa, was it? And there was another one. I'm forgetting. It was on my laptop. So some extract and some resin stuff.
So there was Angelica, Mimosa, and
yes, and that. So is that in that direction? What Pep is saying?
You never know.
All right. So it's okay. So nothing we can say, not also the timeline or something, because right now it's just fresh, I think. So what I can only recommend is get the discovery set, and I think you both have done a beautiful job. Rarely I come across fragrances that surprise me and makes me feel home. And all the people who are not living home and living far away from the family, every now and then, like fragrance like Épices comes and makes you feel really special. Very simplistic, but still does the job. And a huge congratulations to both of you for this.
Thank you.
Absolutely.
Thank you
All
so
right.
much, Raoul.
Thanks, Raoul.
Yeah, my pleasure. Is there anything else you would like to share with the audience? I know we are over time, and it's quite late for us. Marie is hungry. Pep will start the day. So anything that you would like to share with us?
I mean, I think we've just started not so long ago. I think the support from people like you in the community has been amazing so far. Just so lovely, and like I feel all the hugs and I didn't expect that. Very, very grateful for everyone that has ordered discovery sets and full bottles. I think this is wonderful, and I'm happy the stories we have to tell people, that some people want to hear them. So it's amazingly, beautiful as a start. So thank you for everyone that has been watching, and if anyone else is watching this later as well, I think it's like for people like you that we're also doing that, certainly.
Amazing, lovely. Pep, closing thoughts?
Only to echo Marie and say thank you, especially to all the people that that supported me, my part in this. So and I guess trusted me enough to want to try the perfumes as well, because I'm as emotionally invested in these as Marie is. So I'm very pleased with how much support we've had as well. So from the bottom of my heart, thank you to everyone.
Absolutely.
And
so
thank you so much, Raoul, as well. Such a pleasure. Thank you.
It's my pleasure. I take a lot of pride.
Raoul.
I always say it. I take a lot of pride in introducing people and brands like you, because it's a lot of work that goes behind it. Like Pep mentioned, it's very easy for reviewers like us, without any technical knowledge, smell a fragrance on a blotter in 5 seconds, say meh, But it's just it breaks my heart sometimes, or at least it makes me feel the importance of getting to know how many hands a fragrance goes through before it comes in your hand. So you just have to have some more empathy and give it your try. And I just take a lot of pride in introducing people and brands like you. So I can only recommend that there is a beautiful website. You should definitely go and check. If you are in Berlin, there's a beautiful store called 15 West. Is that what's called?
Yes, exactly.
Beautiful.
15 West in West Berlin, as the name says.
In West Berlin, and definitely go and try the fragrances. And I'm pretty sure a lot of doors would be opening. And if I can do anything, of course, I would be more than happy to do it. Yeah, thank you very much.
One tiny last little thing before we leave, because I forgot to mention, we're about this close from being able to ship internationally. So please stay tuned. And we apologize if we can't so far, but it should come very soon. And we're very excited to be able to do that whenever it happens. So yeah, that's it. I'm done.
Congratulations for that. And even though you didn't share much about the next one coming in, we are very excited. I'm really excited for this, and keep our eyes open and hopes high. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much.
Yeah.
Bye, everyone. Have a good night.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.